So really, I consider it a privilege to be able to do this. Baruch Hashem, it's not the first time that we took the shiur from the night and moved it into the daytime because of a Simcha Bikkur Cholim. Now, a Simcha Bikkur Cholim is not a simple thing to do, because really, what I've noticed over the years of speaking here, being here every Thursday night at Bikkur Cholim, that it's really one big, happy family. And everyone here is like brothers, everyone here is close. And it's a really beautiful thing to see. So, Sheva Brachas like this, we really call a family Sheva Brachas. So we're going to keep it short, even though the word shiur scares most people. We're going to keep it short, and I'm just going to try to combine a thought on the Parsha and the Sheva Brachas together. And it's really a special thing for me, because the chassan here tonight does come to the shiur on Thursday night. It was really a pleasure for me to get to know him over the past year or two. Very responsible boy, and I know where it comes from. I know his parents. I remember when his parents got married, and I remember your father in yeshiva before he got married, and I know your family, your wife's family, and I consider it a very, very special privilege for myself to do this. And at the beginning of the parsha, the Torah tells us about the Meraglim. It's an episode of the Meraglim. And the episode of Meraglim about these spies that were sent to scout out Eretz Yisrael before Klal Yisrael would now go over and enter Eretz Yisrael. But from so many angles, no matter how you look at the parsha, no matter how you try to read this quote story, the parsha really requires explanation. It's something that we cannot understand or even try to understand at face value. And the Nesivos Shalom asks a very interesting question right at the beginning of the parsha. And he wants to know, why would they think of sending people to scout out Eretz Yisrael at all? The Psukim tell us, what did they want to know? The Psukim say, S.S.S. go into Eretz Yisrael and let's go see what this land is all about. Let's look at the nations that dwell in Eretz Yisrael. We need to see, who are they strong? Are they not strong? Are they plentiful? Are there few of them? We need to go check out all these things and see if it's conquerable. See if we're able to dwell. See if we're able to live in this land of Eretz Yisrael. So let's remember for a second, who are we talking about here? We're talking about a generation of people that lived basically their entire lives l'mala miderech hateva. Nothing that these people had seen in the recent past was normal. Imagine you're growing up and what goes on in your life. Yetzias Mitzrayim, not very everyday, not very normal, right? Kriyas Yamsuf, the Ananei HaKavod that led them, the H that led them at night. You had man, you're never going to be hungry. They had the Be'er of Miriam, they're never going to be thirsty. Every single thing in their lives was lemala miderech hateva. So why would it make a difference what is going on in Eretz Yisrael right now? Why does it matter? I mean, whatever is there, so it'll be taken care of, lemala miderech hateva, the same way everything else was set up for you and put in front of you in your life. The same thing would happen when you go into Eretz Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised them an Eretz, Avas, Chalav, U'Devash. It's going to be a land that's beautiful. It's going to be sweet. You're going to have everything you want. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises it to you, what is the question? HaToivahi Imra'ah. They needed to see Eretz Yisrael. Is it good or is it the opposite? Is it not so good? And imagine also they're sending the greatest people. The Pasuk tells us, Rashei B'nai Yisrael Hema. They sent the greatest members of Klal Yisrael to go into Eretz Yisrael now and see if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be right, if he's going to keep his word. Is the land of Eretz Yisrael good or not? Very, very tough to understand at face value. So Nesivos Shalom tells us a very interesting point. And he says that he wants to say something about the Meraglim in general. When the Pasuk tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu actually supported this idea of the Meraglim, Nesivos Shalom tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu supported the idea of the Meraglim, but he did not support the reason why the Meraglim wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael right now. What was Moshe Rabbeinu interested in? Moshe Rabbeinu was not interested whether the fruits are actually juicy, or whether the people are 6 foot tall, 7 foot tall, they're giants or not giants. That's not what Moshe Rabbeinu was interested in. Moshe Rabbeinu agreed with the idea of going into Eretz Yisrael. You know what? Why? To check on the ruchnius of Eretz Yisrael. And it's because of the immense kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. It is so great that the challenges we know in Eretz Yisrael, the challenges of ruchnius in Eretz Yisrael, are also much greater because of the greatness of Eretz Yisrael. And you know what they needed to know? They needed to know, how are we going to battle the challenges of ruchnius that are going to face us in Eretz Yisrael? Was it the challenge of an Amalek? Was it a challenge of one of the 7 nations that dwelled in Eretz Yisrael at that time? That's what we have to see. There's a special Yetzer Hara that's associated with each of those, with Amalek, with this nation, with that nation. We need to go in and see what is going on here as far as the ruchnius. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to know, is it good for the Jews or bad for the Jews? But is it good in ruchnius, or are we going to have a tough time with a battle, with the battles that face us with the ruchnius in Eretz Yisrael? And that is why Moshe Rabbeinu agreed, send the Rashi B'nai Yisrael, send the greatest of our people to Eretz Yisrael. You know why? Because the greater the person, the more they understand what we need in ruchnius, what we need in Eretz Yisrael. But Klal Yisrael, the Meraglim had a different thing in mind. The Meraglim, to them, it was all about the Gashmias. In those, they made a mistake, and they thought that the Hanhaga of Derech HaTeva, that the Hanhaga that they were leading in Eretz Yisrael was only for the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim. They thought that yes, Yetzias Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf, everything that was a Hanhaga of Lamalabi Derech HaTeva. But the Meraglim thought that, you know what, that's over now. Now we're in a different time. We're in the Midbar now. Now, we're not going to be going with this Lamala Miderech HaTeva anymore. They thought that once we go into Eretz Yisrael, we're a regular nation. We're regular people. And unfortunately, we see it today in the politics also. Unfortunately, the people that are running Eretz Yisrael sometimes, the one thing they want to be is they want to be a regular nation. They want to be a nation among nations. And every one of us has to realize, anyone that's in Eretz Yisrael, anyone that has the good fortune to live in Eretz Yisrael, to go to Eretz Yisrael, has to know that things in Eretz Yisrael don't happen the way they happen in the rest of the world. Everything is Lamala Miderech HaTeva. The Gashmias, the Ruchnias, everything is different. Everything is on a totally different level. So the Torah says that Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Shalach L'cha, Moshe Rabbeinu, send for your reasons. Don't send for the reasons that the Meraglim want. Shalach L'cha Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu, I agree that there should be Meraglim. Let's do it for your reason. Yes, let's do it so we could raise our level of ruchnius when we get to Eretz Yisrael. And the punishment, unfortunately, was that not one of those people was able to go into Eretz Yisrael. You know why? Because they didn't believe in the power of Eretz Yisrael. They didn't believe what Eretz Yisrael stands for. They didn't believe that Eretz Yisrael is Lamala Miderech HaTeva. That Eretz Yisrael is different for the people that live there and for the people that visit there. And you're davening and you're learning and everything is on a different level when you come to Eretz Yisrael. It continues. The Lamala Miderech HaTeva that Hashem started by Yetzias Mitzrayim now moves with Klal Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael. And the Pasuk in Tehillim tells us, Vayim'asu be'eretz chemda. David HaMelech tells us that they despised the coveted land. They despised Eretz Yisrael. What does it mean they despised it? If you look at what the Meraglim said in the Parsha, the Meraglim said, it's an Eretz of Aschalav Davash. When they came back, they said, you know what, you're right. It's a beautiful land. There's a lot of Eretz of Aschalav Davash. You know why? You know why? Vayim'asu be'eretz chemda. We see something very key over here. We see that sometimes you could agree and you could believe, but if you don't believe in the extra beauty and the extra power of Eretz Yisrael, that's still called Vayim'asu. You're still despising. You're not believing that it's Lamala Miderech HaTeva. And in order for something to be Lamala Miderech HaTeva, the first thing we have to believe is that everything is in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything is in Hashem's hands. And when I look and I see both sides of the Shera Brachas tonight, these are people who live their daily lives with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. These are people who everything is in Siyata Dishmaya. Everything that they do is reflected in the fact that they understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there and leads every step of the way. And that's the way we lead our lives. Tuvia Horowitz is a good friend of mine, and though we don't get to see each other enough these days sometimes, he moved down to New Hampshire Avenue. There's too much traffic making it down to out to lunch, I know that. But he's a person who lives, he and his wife and his family live very quietly, but there are people that live with Siyata Dishmaya. There are people that understand that nothing has to do with what they're doing with their hands. That every step of the way, they're being led by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Eli, I know for many years, and Mrs. Young, who from the Mendel Rabinowitz's family, I remember when they opened the yeshiva, I remember whatever he jumped into, Mendel used to tell me, I'm jumping into the pool, there's no water in there, I'm just going, and Rabbi Shalom will help him. That is the way he lived. How is going to be a payroll? How is going to be this? No idea. Because Baruch will help. And Baruch Hashem, you see the results. What a beautiful family has been built from this. And that is because the extra thought that goes into it. People today, it's against the grain. We have to go sometimes against the grain of the world and understand that not only are things l'mala miderech hateva and Eretz Yisrael, but every Jew who lives anywhere in the world understands that the first step is that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want to wish the family now, the combined family, the Chassan and the Kala, both such wonderful people. I want to wish you that you should live the lives that your parents have set up for you, live the lives that your grandparents have set up for you, live the lives of Siyata Dishmaya. You should be Zoicha, Taka, together to have loads of Siyata Dishmaya, and you should be able to make many simchas together, and hopefully, I mean, you don't always have to make it on Thursday, but I hope to come anyway. If you make it on Tuesday, I don't have to speak. But I want to thank you for having me here. It was truly a great honor for me to speak at your Shera Brachas, and we should be zocheh to share many more simchas together.